Say who you are and where you're from. Now, let's go to the phones and talk to Grant Cameron. Now, Grant is a Southampton-based solicitor and spokesperson for Resolution. Morning, Grant.
Good morning, Julian.
And just tell us a bit more about Resolution.
Well, Resolution is an organisation that's been around now for over 30 years, started with a core group of about 25 solicitors who felt that family law should be dealt with in a better way. Over the last 30 years, their membership's grown now to over 6,000 lawyers sort of nationally, and very sort of influential both in sort of decisions affecting families and sort of children, so a really major sort of force to be reckoned with now.
And is this driven by so many messy divorce settlements?
It certainly was. I think historically, family lawyers, as they felt things needed to be done in a better way. They could see there were really damaging effects, obviously for the couple, for the extended family, and particularly for children. There could be messy settlements and in terms of finances or big arguments over the children. And therefore, Resolution really felt that things that they wanted should be done in a sort of much better way, cost-effective, but also a very constructive way, looking for solutions rather than sort of just looking for arguments.
Up to now, Grant, the prenup has been associated with well-off, famous celebrities, rightly or wrongly. I mean, is that fair, or actually are you finding more and more couples are doing this?
I have to say that we've certainly had far more inquiries, and certainly in a year I will have inquiries about prenuptial agreements, and it will come from sort of couples of sort of varying walks of life. The thing is, a lot of people may marry later on in life, or they may come into a second or third marriage. They might have inherited money or assets from other family members, and as a result of that, they're looking to sort of protect these assets. So yes, we do certainly see a far greater inquiries about prenuptial agreements.
And for people listening who are perhaps thinking about getting married, what are the do's and don'ts? I
think certainly, first of all, it's always good to get sort of early advice. As I say, prenuptial agreements may not necessarily suit everybody, and I think we all accept they're not perhaps the most romantic of sort of tools, but it's a bit like car insurance. You don't drive a car without car insurance. So for looking at prenuptial agreements, sort of taking early advice and sort of therefore getting an idea and a feel of sort of how to move that forward. Legal advice is a real central element to sort of how decisive weight will be given to a prenuptial agreement if there was a later disagreement about it and the court were involved. So as I say, that early advice and an understanding of one another's sort of financial affairs and what they really both want to achieve, so sort of keeping that line of communication and discussion going.
And the idea that it would basically become mandatory to have a prenuptial, I mean, is that what you're seeing this will mean?
I don't think it will necessarily mean mandatory. I think it will still be very much something that clients can sort of elect into, but they're going to have a far greater ability to sort of to do that. Whereas, I say, as you've identified, it was sort of the celebrity couples that were sort of very familiar with this idea of prenuptial agreements. I think we'd certainly sort of expect to see an increase when it becomes part of legislation, but that doesn't mean to say that the couples have to do that. It's still going to be something that they come to by choice.
So let's just go through the practicals here. So I'm reading this that such agreements would mean that rather than maintenance payments being agreed as part of a divorce settlement, couples will be able to, and I quote here, ring-fence property or gifts that they've brought to the marriage. So take me through what that could mean. So let's say you're getting married, and for the sake of argument, one of the partners has got a property already. Could you then say, as part of the prenup, if we got divorced, you can't have any of the house?
I mean, that is certainly one element to it, but I think what the Commission have identified is there will need to be safeguards in place so that one of the spouses won't be left into sort of high and dry position where they're left in need. But if those needs, so it may be sort of future housing or to make sure that they've got enough of a financial cushion to sort of move forward, if those needs are met, then it's a question then other assets or that particular asset may be ring-fenced and safeguarded. But as I say, need still very much central to sort of what needs to be taken into account.
OK, let's just go through, and I mean, you may say the same answer for everything I'm going to say, or you might say, oh, on that occasion. So let me go through a few examples here. One half of the partnership has got a pension. Could you say that if we get divorced, you can't have part of it?
Again, I think it will depend on sort of certain factors. So if it's, say, for instance, a very short marriage or a young couple, then I think that would be seen as a reasonable sort of proposition. But if you'd had a couple who'd been, say, married for many, many years and one party had no pension and therefore sort of faced even greater financial sort of insecurity sort of hitting retirement age, then that's going to have a bearing as well.
Okay. The dog, Toto, is one partner's dog when they get married, and that partner wants to go, you can't have Toto if we get divorced.
I suspect Toto may well sort of, if he was within a prenuptial agreement, would stay with the party who was particularly keen to sort of keep hold of him. I have to say, if it was in my family situation, I have no doubt that my wife would succeed in any argument over the dog. So, yeah, dogs and cats do sometimes sort of form part of the things that we have to get involved in.
Yeah, I thought they might do, and I didn't mention the cat Ginger either, so that right. How about this one? You say that if, for example, I got a big promotion and started making big earnings, you couldn't take that into account if we got divorced.
I think, again, sort of we have to look at the bigger picture. So if it's part of an agreement, you'd still need to go back to this sort of central concept of need. So it depends, again, on sort of the length of the relationship and how long that sort of financial, if you like, cushion has sort of been in place. And so there will be other factors that will have some bearing on this.
And Uncle Jimmy's silver tea service. It's my Uncle Jimmy's, it's mine, it's not yours if we get divorced.
I think that will again stay with the sort of recipient of Uncle Jimmy's sort of gift,
right.
and in fact we would argue something even now that sort of gifts particularly given to one party, if from a family member or friend, should perhaps remain in that party's possession.
So in conclusion, Grant, the areas that are what I would call ongoing financial responsibilities, i.e. salary, properties, that kind of thing, you're saying it's even if you sign one of these, it's still not clear cut.
I think at the moment there is a lot of sort of uncertainty. A lot depends on sort of case law. So you will have a case like the Radmacher case back in 2010.
Which was what?
This was a case sort of by the Supreme Court where the courts recognised they would uphold prenuptial agreements. They didn't make them legally binding, but they sort of gave them this status of decisive weight. And in that case, there was a very significant fortune which Catherine Radmacher was sort of able to sort of protect to a certain degree. So these are, as I say, but it will take it beyond this decisive weight. It is going to give much more sort of legal understanding and sort of clarity. And I think this is where the real important element comes. As I say, at the moment we've got this uncertainty, and I think from a family lawyer's point of view, what we're looking to achieve is greater clarity and certainty. And I think, therefore, couples will sort of be able to protect their position much better, and as long as they've had legal advice and this concept of need is taken into account, this will help with this clarity. So
the question in the morning is, and I'd love to know whether a lawyer can give me a yes-no answer on this, the question we're asking is, should couples sign prenuptial agreements before getting married? And Grant, you say?
Yes.
Right. Oh, good. I love it. One-word answer. You're the man.
Yeah, definitely.
Grant Cameron, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much,
a Southampton-based solicitor. He's a spokesperson for Resolution, and that's what he thinks. What do you think? 0345 30 39 61's my number. Text Solent to 81333. Here's Sophie.